My name is Stephen Joshua, and it took being trapped in the house for 2 days with two toddlers and two pit bulls to discover instant pulling relief without using products that cause my dog pain. Now, that week it flooded so bad the news called it an atmospheric river.
California blindsided by an atmospheric river.
My girls and my dogs love playing outside, so it was tough for them. It was tough for all of us.
We're stranded.
When the rain finally let up, my 5-year-old daughter looked out the window and told me she wanted to go outside and jump in puddles. I knew they needed to get out of the house after being cooped up for 2 days, and I would have been open to a walk. But jump in puddles? Nah. They'd get soaking wet, which mean I'd have to run a load of laundry. They'd probably get muddy, which mean I'd have to put them in the bath, and I still had to figure out what was for dinner that night and walk the dogs. After all those calculations, I had to tell her like Randy Jackson would have, American Idol style.
It's a no for me, dog.
And she went into a full-blown meltdown. Now, I started to feel like the bad guy, but my mind was made up. There was a direct conflict of interest. I didn't want her to get wet. She wanted to play in the water. Someone wasn't going to get what they wanted, and it was looking like it was going to be her until my wife yelled out, "They have rain gear. They won't get wet, and they love it." And just like that, our grudge match was solved. All I needed to hear was 4 magic words. They won't get wet, and my whole attitude changed. That meant no muddy clothes, no load of laundry, no immediate baths, and no meltdown. If the rain gear worked, then we'd both get what we wanted. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it sounded a little too good to be true, but my wife said she did it all the time, so I put their rain gear to the test. We didn't even make it down the driveway before they saw their first puddle and jumped in. They were so happy and carefree that I started to feel guilty that I almost didn't allow them to have this experience, especially since I knew they needed it so badly. I was so excited about how well their rain gear was working that I wanted to find a bigger puddle, and we did. It was so hard for them to pick up their feet that they were trudging through the water like little soldiers. They were having so much fun, they didn't even notice they were getting a workout. As a matter of fact, once they were done with the giant puddle, they didn't even want to finish the walk because they were so exhausted. And when we took off their rain suits, their clothes were still dry. They were so calm and relaxed afterwards. There was no running, no screaming, no arguing, no whining. It was a true win-win. I didn't have to deny them the childlike experience of puddle jumping. I didn't have to be the bad guy that took the fun out of everything. I was able to meet their needs without making it harder for me. And all it took was rain gear. So how does this relate to strong, energetic dogs? Well, my dogs were also cooped up with tons of energy that week. They were whining because they wanted to go outside. They were constantly running in circles, trying to let off some steam, but had nowhere to go. They were literally going through the same dilemma that my girls were going through because they hadn't been walked for 2 days straight. Except when the rain let up, they didn't want to jump in puddles. They wanted to pull. And even though I understood why they were pulling, I was so tired, all I could think about was how uncomfortable it was. It felt like a game of tug of war. I had to wrap the leash around my hand for extra grip. They were yanking and jolting from bush to bush. But after I walked, I started thinking to myself, what if there was a way to make pulling comfortable? What if I could experience relief when they pulled, the same way rain gear helped my daughter stay dry while playing in the water? Then we both could win. I wouldn't be tempted to use products that hurt them or made them uncomfortable. I wouldn't have to deny them the experience of sniffing, exploring, and being free. I wouldn't have to be the bad guy that sucked the fun out of their walks, and they'd be able to drain their pent-up energy. And then it hit me. We needed gear for pulling. If snow gear keeps you warm when it's cold and rain gear keeps you dry when it's wet, then pulling gear can make pulling comfortable. And it does. Pulling gear makes pulling comfortable. So comfortable that you'll dare your dogs to pull. The same way I went looking for bigger puddles for my girls to jump in. With pulling gear, you don't have to get rid of pulling, you just adapt to it. Because when you adapt to pulling, 3 key things happen. You get instant relief, you don't need to use products that hurt your dog, and you drain your dog's pent-up energy even when you're short on time. Pulling gear gives you relief so you can allow your dog to just be a dog like a kid in a puddle, especially when circumstances keep you from walking your dog as much as they're used to. Look, maybe you've been working overtime for the holidays. Maybe the weather's been terrible. Maybe your kids have been sick. Maybe you moved to a place with no backyard. No matter what it is, life happens, and we aren't perfect, so why should we expect perfection from our dogs? When you can allow your dog to pull because it no longer makes you uncomfortable, you're able to give your dog some slack and meet them exactly where they are. And as a result, they'll be more calm and relaxed at home. Now, I know this can sound a little too good to be true, just like it did when my wife said my girls wouldn't get wet. So we include a 30-day trial period with all pulling gear. My goal is just to get our products in your hands so you can experience the difference for yourself. And if after 30 days you haven't noticed more comfort on walks, then send it back and we'll give you a full refund. No questions asked.